Hey friends, welcome to Tuesday Tips with your Nurse Advocate Consulting. Hi, I'm Pam. I'm one of your nurse advocates. And this week is Thanksgiving. So I want to talk about something that can feel really complicated when you're a caregiver, and that's an attitude of gratitude. So today's episode of Tuesday Tips is called Attitude of Gratitude, Finding Joy in the Caregiving Journey. Now, before you say, okay, I've heard all about, gratitude and how I should be thankful, but I'm tired, I'm exhausted. Just hang on, because that's what we're gonna talk about. So we're gonna address all the feelings that you may be feeling and how it may be difficult to have an attitude of gratitude. So hang with us. I hope and I know you won't be disappointed. So first of all, I want to thank Jody, one of our colleagues, at a meeting this week for a committee on dignified aging. Jody had brought up this whole gratitude thing and how it is, gratitude for caregivers. So I wanted to thank her for putting kind of that buzz in my ear to see what we could bring to caregivers, that knowing that they should have an attitude of gratitude, but knowing that maybe with their caregiving duties, as a family caregiver, can be really, really hard. So if you are caring for an aging parent or a spouse, partner, you might be surrounded by messages about being thankful and counting your blessings. And that's just what I was talking about. But at the very same time, you might be thinking, I'm grateful, but I'm exhausted. Or honestly, I don't feel very grateful right now. And that's okay. If that's you, you're not alone. So gratitude in caregiving is not as simple as a cute quote or a holiday slogan. So today I want to unpack what gratitude really looks like in real life caregiving scenarios. So we're going to talk about, one, what gratitude is and what it is not for caregivers. We're going to talk about how gratitude can actually support your health and actually your relationships. And three, we're going to talk about some simple, realistic ways, to practice gratitude, even on those really, really hard days. So my goal for this Tuesday Tips is that you walk away with at least one tiny thing that you can try this week, and not a whole new to-do list, just one thing, one takeaway. So I'm hoping that something tonight will resonate with you about helping you get some of that gratitude. So if you're live here, I just want to say, let me hear from you. Put some comments in there, how you're feeling right now, what you do to try and move yourself into an attitude of gratitude. And what's one word that describes how you're feeling going into this holiday week? Be honest. It could be grateful. It could be exhausted. It could be, it's been a rough week. I'm looking for the holiday just for a break. So it could be tired, hopeful, overwhelmed, grateful, or all of the above. There's no wrong answers. Feel free to drop your word in the chat. So let's get started. So what is gratitude and what isn't it? So I want to start by clearing up a big misconception, because caregivers get hit with this all the time. Gratitude is not pretending you're okay when you're not. Gratitude is not minimizing your pain or your loved one's suffering. Gratitude is not forcing yourself, to look at the bright side when everything feels dark. Sometimes people say things like, well, at least you still have your mom, or you should just be grateful that you can help. And meanwhile, you're running on fumes. You're grieving losses, and you're doing the work of three people. Plus, all our sandwich generation family, they're not only, caregiving, but they're trying to pour from an empty cup to their own family. So especially in the holidays, that people are busy, the expectations are high, and so it could get even worse during the holiday season. So what kind of message can feel, like pressure? Anyone that I mentioned could really feel like pressure, or not even pressure, could even feel like shame. And that's not real gratitude. That's what we call toxic positivity. Has anybody heard that? Actually, I didn't hear that, or I wasn't super familiar with that term, except maybe, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. And, toxic positivity is, maybe you're around someone that is just so positive, it's just over the top, and you think that they cannot be like that all the time. And I'd like to see how they are really at their, when they're home and nobody's seeing them. So if you come across someone or something, or messages that you're hearing that make you feel like, there is such a thing, it is a real thing for toxic positivity. So real gratitude in caregiving is actually much gentler. Gratitude is a quiet, intentional practice of noticing what is still good and meaningful, even in a really, really hard season. And maybe it is, taking 15 minutes in the morning early before everyone's up and just drinking your tea or your coffee and just saying, you know what, I'm just enjoying this peace and quiet. I know it's going to be a rough day today, but I just want to take in and just have some peace, and be grateful for that few minutes of peace that you have. And we're going to talk about why gratitude, finding a way to be grateful, is really health beneficial to your health. So we'll get there. So hang with me. Another gratitude is also a way of giving your brain a little break from constantly scanning for danger and problems. And 3, gratitude is a tool that you can use alongside honest grief, frustration, and also fatigue. So you are absolutely allowed to be tired and grateful, angry and grateful, heartbroken and grateful. And I know that seems like an oxymoron, that the two can't go together, but you can. Those feelings can coexist. And gratitude doesn't erase the hard. It's not a list of affirmations or a list of things to put you in a positive mood and to list of things that you're grateful for. That does help in keeping a journal and reminding yourself of what you're grateful for. I don't want to negate that. That is important. But if you've ever felt guilty for not feeling grateful enough as a caregiver, you're in good company. You're not doing it wrong. You're human. And this is a season, and seasons pass, seasons change. And sometimes when I'm going through hard challenges with, my aging mom, or helping a client in a family that's going through a really tough time and just giving everything I got, it's okay. It's okay if maybe that you have those hard days, but I'm still, at the end of the day, when I've gotten through the hard, I can say to myself, this was a rough day, but I'm so glad that I could help them, or I'm so glad this, or I'm very grateful for that. So, why does gratitude matter for caregivers? Let's talk about why it's important, why you hear so much about being grateful. And it's, it needs to go beyond just Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving in itself is gratitude. So the holiday is best, created on the purpose of being thankful and gratitude. So over the next, for the last couple of decades, research has shown that gratitude isn't just a feel-good idea. It actually has measurable benefits for your mental and your physical health. So we're going to get into some of those things with you now. And so just going to take a peek and look at some of my notes here on what I found. So gratitude can reduce caregiver stress and symptoms of depression. So caregivers are at much higher risk for anxiety and depression because of chronic stress, role overload, and the emotional weight of watching someone you love decline. Now think about what I just said. Stress, role overload, the emotional weight of watching someone you love decline. Those are real feelings. And oftentimes someone that has not been on that caregiving journey of an aging loved one is, or, for that matter, anyone that has a chronic illness, oftentimes cannot understand that. And especially when you're trying to juggle your family, your work, your career, maybe you own a business, it really puts a lot of pressure on you and a lot of stress on your body. And we've all been taught the kinds of things that stress can cause: high blood pressure. We talked about depression. It just wears down your immune system. So studies have found that people who regularly practice gratitude report lower levels of stress, have fewer symptoms of depression, and feel more satisfied with their lives overall. I have one of those kind of vinyl verses on the wall in my bedroom, and it says, it's not about the moments that are breathtaking. It's about the moments that take your breath away. And it's, those finding gratitude in those small things. So one study we looked at people that kept a simple weekly gratitude journal. And we did briefly mention that, compared to people who focused on hassles or focused on the negative. The gratitude group reported more optimism and even fewer physical complaints, headaches, and fewer physical symptoms. And I do keep a gratitude journal, and I won't, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't do it every day. I try and do it at least one day on the weekend when things slow down a little bit, and just try, even if it's just, sometimes I get 3 or 4 things down in my planner. My goal for 2026 is to get better at that. In my planner, I do have a section on my planner page for what I'm grateful for today. So I'm going to try really hard to think of one thing that I'm grateful for, just to know that when things are really, really bad, there's always someone who is in a worse situation than I am, and that I can be grateful in some of the small things. Now, does gratitude erase the hard parts of caregiving? No, absolutely not. It doesn't make you fly through caregiving on challenging days, like nothing, you don't have a care in the world. No, it's not going to do that. But it can make you more emotionally resilient. It can toughen you up a little bit. It gives your nervous system a chance to come up for air, so to speak. So the second thing I wanted to mention about how it helps is gratitude is actually linked to better sleep and physical health. So if you're a caregiver, sleep is often the first thing to go. Your mind races, you're thinking about, you got the kids, this and that, or, you've got your mom's appointment, but you're worried about leaving your dad home alone. I mean, all kinds of things that can be going on that's got your mind going. And it's very hard. We all know when we can't turn our mind off, it's very hard to go to sleep. So your schedule is also unpredictable. You might get that 1 o'clock in the morning phone call. You hope you don't get that. You worry about going to bed, hoping you don't get that 1 o'clock in the morning phone call that one of your parents or your aging loved one has fallen. And your body rarely gets a true break. So research suggests that people who practice gratitude, number one, fall asleep more easily, they sleep longer, report fewer aches and pains, and are more likely to engage in healthy behaviors like exercise and checkups. I mean, think about it. When you're feeling down and out and you're feeling kind of cruddy and you're crabby, I mean, exercising is the last thing on your mind. At that point in time, you say, forget you. I'm not feeling it, and I don't care. I'm not doing it. So by having that attitude of gratitude and having, lifting your spirit, so to speak, in small ways, it makes you feel like it makes you feel a little bit more happy and a little bit more self-motivated. Do something good for yourself. It also encourages more supportive behavior. So that's kind of like, if you're in a caregiving situation and you can find a way to be grateful for some things, and that in turn makes you more supportive, I bet there might be less tension, less kind of butting heads, so to speak. Sometimes that happens when we're caring for aging loved ones. And remember, if you are an adult child taking care of an aging loved one, or you are a spouse, you are still that person. You're still, especially with adult children, you are still their child, and they are going to treat you like your child. I don't care if you're 60 years old, they're going to treat you like their child. And so we just can't get past that. That's just kind of the way it goes. But also, gratitude can reduce resentment and isolation. It's very easy to become withdrawn when you're overwhelmed and you're tired. You don't want to, and that's one of my things. If when I was doing hospice, and one time I had where I'd lost 8 of my own patients in a 2-week period. And that was a lot of loss. And some of these I had for months. And so those were big losses for me. And I had a really hard time going to sleep at night because I was waiting for the phone to ring saying that I had another client of mine that had another patient of mine that had passed away. And I would not answer my phone, and my kids, they'd text me and say, "Ma, you're not answering your phone. Are you hiding out?" And I would text them back and say, "Yeah, I just need, I'm struggling a little bit here. I just need a break." So it's very easy to pull away from the people that care about you and want to help you the most, because it can, we're hoping that by practicing that bit of gratitude, that it will reduce those resentments, the feelings that you may have, like, why me? Why can't someone else help more? Why is it seem everything fall on me? And sometimes that happens as well. And also that isolation. So sometimes it's as simple as just noticing and naming what you appreciate. Maybe a sibling who finally made that phone call. Maybe it's just something simple. It doesn't have to be this big, generous, this big whole ordeal. Something simple. Or maybe a nurse who took time to explain something clearly instead of you having to ask 50 million questions. Maybe you're just grateful. Say, "Hey, boy, this was a great appointment. I actually understood and I didn't have to ask 50 million questions." Or maybe it's a moment when your loved one smiled or relaxed when they heard your voice. And, there's nothing more special than those kind of moments. And those moments, maybe they don't happen very often. So when those moments happen, just be thankful for those. If someone comes to mind, as I'm saying this, and whether it's a nurse, a friend, a neighbor, you might even send them a quick text later today saying, "Hey, I'm grateful for you." That's a simple, powerful act of gratitude. "Hey, so-and-so, I'm glad you ran this errand for me. Hey, thanks for picking up the kids. I really appreciate it. I had to do this or had to do that." Just even sharing, thanking someone lifts the spirits, and it feels good to be able to tell someone thank you. So now let's get really practical. You do not need a perfect morning routine or a fancy journal to practice gratitude. I know your days are already booked and overflowing. So I'm going to share a few strategies with you. And as you listen, I want you to just pick one. Pick one that feels maybe doable in your current season. Strategy number 1, 3 moments, daily check-in. So at the end of the day, maybe while you're brushing your teeth, turning off the lights, ask yourself, what are 3 moments from today that I'm grateful for? They can be tiny. Hey, the way your loved one smiled when you brought brought them their favorite snack, or a hot cup of cocoa, or a cup of coffee or tea. Or maybe a nurse who slowed down and explained something in plain language, like we'd mentioned before. 5 quiet minutes alone in the car. Maybe you went through the Starbucks drive-through and you sat in the parking lot to enjoy, your whatever you ordered from Starbucks. Or maybe a text from a friend that simply said, "Thinking of you." And, you can say them silently, jot them down in a notebook, put them in your notes section on your phone if you're out and about. Over time, this trains your brain to look for the small, bright spots during the day, not just problems. Oftentimes it's become a real habit of mine. And if I'm struggling, I can't find something, things are going crazy, and all of a sudden it pops up. Oh, it's like a divine intervention. Suddenly it's clear to me. I remember I always point up and say thank you. And, that's become a habit for me. So that's just really a tiny thing. But whatever it is for you, based on your beliefs and based on your faith, or, what you believe in, it could be something just as simple as that. So if you're watching the replay, you might even pause right here and see if you can just, come up with, just name one moment today that you're grateful for, even if it is small. Okay, so let's move on to strategy number 2. So pair gratitude with a routine task. So for example, caregiving is full of repetitive tasks: medications, laundry, meal prep, bathing assistance, dressing assistance, driving to doctor's appointments, filling up the pill box, all those kind of things. So choose one task, one of those things that you do regularly, and turn that into a built-in gratitude moment. For example, while you're preparing medications, you might quietly think, "Hey, I'm grateful we have access to these treatments or these medications. I'm grateful for the skills that I've learned to be able to manage this, and I can help my aging loved one avoid medication errors. I'm grateful for the strength to be able to show up again today." So maybe when you're driving to an appointment, taking them to an appointment, or taking, yourself to an appointment, notice the trees, notice the skies, look out the window. We have to look out the windshield to be able to see where we're going, but maybe look at it a little differently. Look at something that maybe you don't pay attention of, catching a sunrise or a sunset, or, horses in the pasture, or cows, or whatever you see. But, it, and just try and look at it differently, but it adds a layer of meaning and grounding. And this really, it erases the stress of the task. You don't have to think about, oh gosh, I can't think of something I'm grateful for today, because, it's muscle memory. That's going to take a while to train your brain to think of those things. So just, again, just keep it simple. If you're a visual person, this can be powerful. Grab a jar, a basket, a box, or keep it somewhere you can see it. I have a gratitude jar. It's a mason jar. I decorated it, and we're going to be doing this at Thanksgiving this year, because I think it's really important for the kids and the grandkids to know the meaning of gratitude. So we're going to do a gratitude jar. I'm going to have the kids write something on a piece of paper, something that they're grateful for. We're going to put that in the jar. We're going to pass it around, and we're going to pull one out and read it. And, we've never done that before. I've talked about it, and the kids are like, oh, Ma, that's kind of, but we're going to do it because I think it's important. I think that everybody needs to be able to take a moment to be grateful. So grab the jar, basket, keep it where you can see it. A few times a week, write one thing that you're grateful for on a small slip of paper and drop it in there. And, weeks later, months later, 6 months later, to go back and look at those things, what a wonderful reminder. And that could be your jar to go to. If you're having trouble thinking of what you're grateful for, pull something out of the jar, if you can't think of anything else, and remind yourself of what you were grateful for at that time. Mom really laughed today. Neighbor brought soup. Neighbor brought a freezer meal. I asked for help today. On the really hard days, pull out a few slips and read them. It's a tangible reminder. It's you can touch it, that your story includes more than just the current crisis that you might be in. And if you try this, it doesn't have to be, Pinterest perfect. I'm one of those Pinterest people. I love to search Pinterest and find the latest and greatest ideas. But, a mason jar, coffee mug, a shoebox, whatever you have is good enough. So strategy number 4, it's both and grateful reframing. And what I mean is, this one is important. We're not pretending that things aren't hard. We have to remember that. I acknowledge that in the beginning, and I want to continue to make sure that we acknowledge that. Instead, we can add a gentle both or an and. So here we go. Here goes. Here's some examples. This is exhausting, and I'm grateful I have the skills to advocate for my dad. I'm heartbroken my mom doesn't remember my name today, but I'm grateful she still relaxes when she hears my voice. And that's super, super meaningful. And that's what a blessing that is. And, if you really break that down. Or how about, I'm frustrated with this insurance call, but I'm so grateful that I have the persistence to keep pushing. And this honors your real feelings, but it still anchors you in purpose and meaning, and still gives you that anchor and gratitude. So that is powerful. If you can do that when you're really, really struggling, try that both and framework. Strategy number 5, include gratitude for yourself. Caregivers are usually great at being grateful for everyone else and very hard on themselves. I could do this better. If only I could have more time. I need to do this. I need to do that. Try adding one self-gratitude statement each day. 1, I'm grateful I made that phone call I was dreading. I'm grateful I took 10 minutes to walk outside. I'm grateful I bit my tongue and didn't lash back today when I really, really wanted to. I'm grateful I showed up today even though I wanted to stay in bed. You are part of this story too. Your courage, your persistence, your love, they deserve to be acknowledged. And so if you want to, you can even put those on slips of paper in your gratitude jar. Let yourself be one of the things that you're grateful for, because you are doing hard, important work that is truly a labor of love. So when gratitude feels impossible, I also want to name this. There will be days when gratitude feels completely out of reach and there's no way you can be grateful for anything that happened today. Maybe there's been a hospitalization, a new diagnosis, a declining condition, a fall, a difficult behavior change. On those days, focus on one breath at a time, not a long gratitude list. Let your gratitude practice be as simple as, I'm grateful I made it to this moment. I'm grateful I could be here. Give yourself full permission. Let me say that again. Give yourself full permission to feel what you feel. Grief and gratitude often travel together in caregiving. And if you notice that sadness, anxiety, or hopelessness are really overwhelming most days, that's not a failure of gratitude. That's a sign that it might be time to reach out for more help. It is not a weakness to ask for help. I'm going to say that again. It is not a weakness to ask for help. It is a strength. So knowing your own limitations is a strength. So maybe it's a therapist, a support group, or a nurse advocate, someone who understands this journey. You are not weak for needing help. You are wise. So in closing, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a little longer than usual, but I think at this time of year, really need to acknowledge the work that you do as family caregivers. And as we head into this Thanksgiving week, my invitation for you is simple. Don't use gratitude as a weapon against yourself. Use it as a soft place to land. Choose one of the tiny practices, 3 moments at the end of the day, a gratitude thought during, giving meds or doing a task, a caregiver gratitude jar, or one kind sentence that you can say about yourself, and let that be enough for now. You don't have to do this alone. At Your Nurse Advocate Consultant, we walk alongside family caregivers who feel stretched thin, helping you along the way. We've got many different resources for you. We help you navigate complex medical systems, prepare for appointments, advocate for your loved ones, share and shoulder some of those responsibilities, and also find practical strategies to reduce stress for you at home. So you bring the love. We bring the roadmap. You are the hero. We are the guide. So if you like supporting your caregiving journey or help building sustainable habits like gratitude in your daily routine, please reach out. Go to our website, Your Nurse Advocate Consulting. There's a ton of free resources there. There's a place where you can we do a free 30-minute consultation. You deserve support too, and you are worth caring for. So thank you for spending your part of your Tuesday tips with me. If you see the replay, we're very grateful that you've gone to our YouTube channel and watched that. And I am truly grateful for you and for the way that you keep showing up for the people that you love. So happy Thanksgiving week, and we'll see you next time. We'll see you next Tuesday for another Tuesday Tips. Take care.